RFID barcode bracelets. Now, that's because under this, FEMA is enacting continuity of government, and these individuals, for all intents and purposes, are prisoners. So we'll be going over that for you. But I first want to get into the situation with Russia. For those that don't know, the former Soviet Union, very corrupt, extremely evil, conservatively killed 60 million of its own people. And in 1991, because their own police, their own military wouldn't go along with it anymore, starting in Poland and then, of course, with the Stasi in East Germany, with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, that led up to Boris Yeltsin seizing control of the capital and then basically collapsing into an alcoholic stupor until 1999, when the true head of the country, a former KGB chief from St. Petersburg, Vladimir Putin, took over under suspicious circumstances with a popular war. The U.S.-backed Chechens were beating Russian forces. He couldn't get the Russian people behind an invasion of Chechnya to save the breakaway republic. And so the evidence is clear. Vladimir Putin's FSB, the name of the new KGB, staged terror attacks by blowing up 3 apartment buildings. Moscow police caught FSB members planting, that's government, that's KGB's new name at the time, Federal Security Bureau, planting hexagen bombs, plastic explosives in a 4th building. So I'm not here saying Vladimir Putin is a wonderful person. I'm not here saying Vladimir Putin is an angel or his new puppet president that he has in there, though he's very popular. He, of course, now is prime minister. I just report the facts here. Russia has been imploding. NATO and the West have been hiring Muslim extremists, as they always do, to attack different areas, different sectors of what has formerly been Russia territory. And when they take Chechnya, it's not enough. Then they want to try to push into other areas, though Russia gained control back over Chechnya. Then in 1998, the KLA, or Kosovo Liberation Army, which are, if you can get this straight, Marxist-Leninist Muslims out of Albania, publicly U.S.-backed with over $500 million, began attacking Serb military forces in Kosovo. And Kosovo is as much a part of Serbia as Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee are. And the KLA launched long-term, multi-year attacks, killing men, women, and children, running sneak attacks on police stations, you name it. And then Slobodan Milosevic finally launched an attack down into Kosovo, clearing them out. The world screamed bloody murder. NATO went in and bombarded not just Kosovo, but all of Serbia, bombing Belgrade with depleted uranium weapons, radiating the population. Their cancer levels have now more than tripled, international studies show. Bombing the infrastructure of the nation. Their car plants, their helicopter plants, their airplane plants, their water treatment plants, their media, their universities, their electrical power generation facilities, because they don't want a sovereign nation right in the middle of the New World Order. The globalists don't want any sovereign nations, not U.S., not Russia, not Iran, not anybody. The U.S. is dominated by the international banking cartel. Serbia was not. And so they use Muslims to attack them, but it's just like 1984. East Asia has never been our enemy. The next day, East Asia has always been our enemy. Or Eurasia has never been our enemy. Now it's always been our enemy. They told the American people that Serbia attacked Kosovo. And the public bought it, and CNN and others got caught showing UN camps on the Macedonian border and the Albanian border with starving people months into this trying to break into the camps regarding the food, and they lied and showed people through the barbed wire looking in and said, look, they're in Serb camps. And that's now admitted. The American people bought it. Slobodan Milosevic was grabbed and then poisoned to death years later in The Hague. And it was admitted he was poisoned. He said, they threatened to poison me if I don't plead guilty. Then they poisoned him, and they said, well, he got poison in his cell and poisoned his self. Now, that's a fact. Now, expanding, the same thing just happened. On 8/8/8, the day the Olympics started, This is all in the European press, even in the bottom of the newspapers here in the U.S., but you got to dig to find it. 1,000 Israeli commandos, that's in Herod's Jerusalem Post. They're very proud of it. More than 1,000 Ukrainian commandos, hundreds, and this is the admitted number, of U.S. Marines and Army commandos launched a sneak attack on the capital of South Ossetia that's always been part of Russia. Always been part of Russia. Georgia, for more than 200 years, has been. And Joe Stalin was from there, so he made it part of Russia. That is, took some enclaves that had been part of Russia, Ossetia and Abkhazia, and gave it to Georgia and the governor there that he was friends with. And in 1991, the Georgians launched sneak attacks on those Russian enclaves. The UN came in, and then on 8/88, U.S.-backed Georgians launched a massive sneak attack, killing thousands. Now, having the most dumbed-down public in the world, our media told us, headline, Russia sneak attacks Georgia. When we come back, I'm going to give you the latest developments. It's getting very, very serious, and we've got two experts joining us, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts and Richard C. Cook. Stay with us. All right, we're back live, my friends. Thank you for joining us. Continuing, I gave you some of the basic history of the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, and then the, quote, West encircling them. At the time, in 1999, U.S. troops began moving, along with NATO troops, British troops, into Pristina, the capital of Kosovo, that state capital in Serbia. And the Russians flew in with aircraft and took over the main airport. General Wesley Clark at the time gave the order for NATO aircraft to bomb the Russian tanks that had been invited in by Serbia because NATO was trying to take that part of Serbia. And Russia went ahead and backed off, pulled out under the promise that there would not be ethnic cleansing and that Kosovo, or one-third of Serbia, would not be handed over to the Muslims, going back to the Crusades and the fights back and forth between the Muslims and the Christians over that area. It's holy land to people there in Eastern Europe and always been part of Serbia. And then last year, the United States announced, yep, we are breaking that off completely, and we are giving it basically to Albania, Muslim Albania. This is the same government telling you give up all your rights or the evil Muslims are going to get you. No, they use whoever they can whenever. Ideology means nothing. Only pulling down sovereignty and independent states that have their own banking systems. This is a global government being formed. Now, the Russians are watching this happen. Meanwhile, thousands of U.S. troops, weapon systems, black sites, ghost sites, that is secret U.S. military bases, open military bases being set up in Czech Republic, in Ukraine, in Georgia, of course, in Poland, moving offensive and defensive weapon systems in. NATO then last year put out a new policy. It's incredible, saying we may launch a sneak attack, a preemptive nuclear war on Russia. Russia's like, why are you doing that? So Russia starts testing hypersonic missiles, long-range ICBMs with MIRV tips, multiple reentry devices, so one missile can carry in 24 warheads when it comes back into the atmosphere over North America, when it's shot over the polar ice cap to the north of the Arctic. Escalating all this. And then on 8/88, a sneak attack is launched on Russian bases that were internationally sanctioned and there since 1991, killing thousands. In fact, Georgian peacekeepers inside the bases would wait till the Russians would run out of their bunkers when they were getting bombed and would machine gun them. These are Georgian peacekeepers, part of the UN force that were in there with the Russians, guys they were eating with hours before, guys they were bunking next to hours. I mean, this is the most dastardly sneak attack you can imagine. Pearl Harbor was bad enough with Zeros flying over bombing ships. This is guys you've been bunking next to. Talk about a dastardly sneak attack. So all of this is going on, and they think the American public is so stupid. And I even bought it for about 10 minutes that Friday on the air. I was like, my God, look at the headlines. It says Russia has attacked Georgia. And then I would read in the bottom of it and say, wait a minute, after Georgia attacked these Russian enclaves. So, I mean, even I don't expect the government and the media to lie in that extreme of a way. To and for the last month, close to a month, they have been saying the same thing over and over and over again. Russia's bad. Russia has to have sanctions put on it. More U.S. troops have to be brought up to their borders, more missile systems. And meanwhile, the EU, European Union, is set to vote tomorrow on sanctions on Russia. The Black Sea Fleet is being threatened by the Ukrainian fleet, saying they can't land back at their port that they've leased. It goes on and on and on. And U.S. forces, I've got the articles right here, are massing. U.S. troops are being flown in by the thousands, weapon systems. Russia's saying that's an act of war. The United States is saying leave Abkhazia and Ossetia, which have always been part of Russia and which were just snuck attacked. And I hear the public and I hear talk show hosts saying, man, Russia's bad, sneak attacking Georgia.